obviously a very high emotional case for both sides, but I think the jury saw that the evidence was overwhelming, and we're certainly glad that they came to the result that they did.
I think the family was happy not only in the guilty verdict, but that the jury imposed the maximum sentence they could by law, the 40 years and $100,000 fine. I think that's very gratifying for us and for the family as well.
You guys said, there's a lot of circumstantial evidence in this case. Without any of that hard evidence, I guess, were you guys concerned at all, or?
Well, hard witness, when you say circumstantial, it means there's no eyewitness testimony.
Yeah.
But we believe we had a lot of hard evidence, or very great evidence, in terms of we had the information from his phone, the victim's blood in his apartment, the materials that were recovered from the swamp with the victim. So we believe we had a tremendous amount of evidence, but it was a circumstantial case.
How important was that from the phone? I mean, as soon as that came up, it looked like 7 hours before her body was found. He looked at the exact same spot you had an overhead shot of.
Absolutely. I think the phone evidence was absolutely critical to this case. Clearly, I think the jury saw that there would be no legitimate reason for somebody to be looking at the area that he was looking at, exactly where the body was found 7 hours before it was ever discovered. I think that was a critical part of the case.
So we want to thank Karen Molesky with the forensics part of the police department. She's the one who really did, who's the one who testified. She was the one able to find the information out, and it really made our case a lot stronger. And we thank her.
Well, the defense attorney made a pretty convincing case to me, because I was sitting there and he said, you didn't have who, well, let me start this over. You didn't have when, you didn't have where, you didn't have why, but you came up with a who.
We think we had a where.
Yeah.
But we did. But as I said in my opening statement, we didn't have a how or why. But that's really not relevant to prove the charge. We have to prove that obviously that Brianna was killed and that the perpetrator was Justin Cornell.
What's it like having to prosecute such a gruesome case like this with all those photographs and having to show the jury that?
It's tough. I think the toughest thing about it is that that the family members are going to be exposed to those things, and while we may see them more often because of the line of work that we're in, we know that it's going to be much tougher for them, so that's always present in our minds.
The defense said that, kind of made an interesting point that someone who does something so meticulous, how can they be so dumb at the same time? I mean, what's your reaction to that?
Fortunately, they make mistakes, and I think he made some big mistakes in this case, and it gave us the evidence that we were able to use to convict him. People can be meticulous, but little mistakes catch up to them, and in this case, there were a lot of them.
And I think also want to thank Brenda Pittman from Chesapeake Forensics, because even though it seems very obvious when we're presented at trial, she had to find that piece of paper amongst all those bags, all those body parts. So really, even though we're making a big deal out of it, because it obviously is a very crucial piece of evidence, it could have easily been overlooked. So I think even though it seems so obvious and sloppy, really due to her skills in finding the evidence, really made it so we were able to use it in court.
But his saying that you didn't link the knives to the case, you didn't link the cause of death, you didn't come up.
I'm glad you were on the jury.
But I mean that was kind of hard for you all to swallow that.
That's a difficult.
Well,
case.
I'm not saying that you guys. I'm not saying that you didn't do your job,
Sure.
but he's saying that you all didn't do the job to put him away.
Well, sure, and it's his job as the defense attorney to point out the perceived weaknesses in the Commonwealth's case. At the end of the day, we didn't have to prove exactly how she was killed. We just had to show that there was an unlawful killing, and I think the manner in which her body was found certainly suggests that there was an unlawful killing in this case. We may not be able to say exactly how she was killed, but that's not what the jury needs to decide. They just need to decide that there was an unlawful killing, and clearly they determined that.
The defense attorney just told us that he believes someone else got away with murder. What's your reaction to that?
I fully expect him to believe that, because that's what his position is, and that's what his position has been throughout the case. I will say that clearly the evidence showed that there wasn't anybody else responsible for this murder, that the jury found that Mr. Cornell was the one that was responsible.